Welcome back to Center Stage. Our discussion, all politics is local, diversity in our politics. Yes, quickly to the fact that you have an African-American president nominating that led to the eventual confirmation of the first Hispanic justice. What does it say, and what does that mean for us here in Detroit?
Bankole, what it says to me is that this is a system based on merit. This is a system where we can put aside the relative unpopularity of being from an ethnic minority and still achieve to the presidency and to the United States Supreme Court based on merit. And you know, the health care debate that's raging, and so many debates that are raging, it seems to me to be a division between folks who want to keep privilege and keep power versus folks who want to say, let's let the most meritorious system rule. Let's let the person who's best for the job get the job. Let's not make it about tradition. Let's not make it about having the people who've been in power stay in power. So to me, that's what I see in the Obama administration with this appointment and with a lot of moves that this president has made. It seems to be a recognition in America's grassroots that we have to look at merit more and look at tradition and maintaining privilege less. We simply can't afford that.
How is that message being received in Southwest Detroit and other places?
I think it's very heartening. I think a lot of people, you know, they talk about, well, the economy's bad, so you're going to see a lot of immigrants move back to their countries of origin in Central and South America. A lot of folks going back to Mexico, but it really hasn't happened. You know, that was the fear. But I think
Why?
folks, well, because I think people are encouraged. I think people do think that the country is galvanizing in a positive direction and that we can overcome the challenges that we're facing. There's still a lot of hope that the immigration reform is going to come out of this administration. The president has promised it over and over again.
He said next year.
I think it's very tough for him, and I really feel for him. He's taking on the biggest challenges to face this country in generations and trying to do it all in one term. So it's tough, but my prayers are behind him. But I think people do hold out hope that there's going to be improvement, there will be increased opportunities, and that things around here are going to get better, so they don't want to go back to Central and South America.
So the question is, how do we keep this momentum? Because when you talk to people, they say, well, yes, the government is going to do this, but again, you need movements out there, grassroots that are, you know, can complement what the government is doing. How do you keep this momentum?
Yeah, we're just trying to do it locally with the ways that I've heard other guests on your show talk about. You know, look in the mirror and say, let it begin with me. You know, what can I do to make the contribution? We're trying to identify the young Hispanic leaders to make sure that Southwest Detroit, sometime in the foreseeable future, actually has a state representative who is Hispanic. As you may know, we've had Arabs, we've had Jewish folks from the west side of the Metro Detroit area representing Southwest Detroit, which is predominantly Hispanic. But we haven't been able to put forward a good...
you have a state rep now who is not of Hispanic origin,
right? Rashida Tlaib, who's a fine representative. But
did the Hispanic community have a problem with that?
No. Well, it's split. I would say 50-50. I think 50% are find it objectionable that we couldn't put forward a Hispanic. But my attitude about it is we need to be able to put forward a winning, qualified Hispanic candidate who has the merit to win, and then let Representative Tlaib move on to the Senate. She's going to be term limited out in a short period anyway. We haven't put folks in that pipeline, and that's one of the things that we're working on doing.
And there were reports that she moved into the district to run. How do you find that?
Well, I've seen evidence on both sides about that too. If it's true, it wouldn't be the first time that it has happened with a politician, but it again calls into question, can Southwest Detroit, can the Hispanic community in this area establish a bastion, establish a base, put forward a leader, and start advancing that agenda? And that's what we're trying to do. You know, we're pulling together this summit, trying to identify the leaders and hold people to account to make sure that they're doing their best for the Hispanic community, and that the Hispanic community is doing its best to support its leaders politically and socially.
The other issue in Detroit is we're dealing with, of course, in the African-American community is the Census Bureau. The census coming up. There has been a resistance in the Hispanic community in Detroit. Can you just tell us in terms of what you think?
Well, for the viewers, the basic fear is that a lot of folks figure if they reveal themselves to the government officials in order to be counted, that's somehow going to then reveal themselves to government officials in order to be deported if they're here without papers. And we're working very hard to try and allay those fears and show folks the safe way to let themselves be counted without jeopardizing their ability to remain in the neighborhoods and the homes that they've staked out for themselves, some of them, many years or even a generation. So that's a tremendous push. My work on the Commission of Spanish-Speaking Affairs, which is a statewide office, we're working hand in glove with those Census Bureau people to try and put forward Spanish-speaking pollsters, people who are taking the counts, as well as communications folks that are getting the word out about how people can be counted without putting themselves in danger. It's a big issue for the Hispanic community because I am convinced that a lot of people think there's one set of 15% of Americans are now Hispanic, but I think that's actually an underreporting. I think it's probably several percentage points higher. But we're undercounting because we've got folks that are staying in the shadows.
Now, with President Obama's election as the first African-American president in history in the world, there's been a lot of conversation as far as politics of diversity we're talking about in terms of, what the, after Obama runs for, after he completes his second term when he gets reelected, what the next ticket would be. Would we see a Hispanic candidate running for president of the United States?
Well, I was fairly proud of the showing that Bill Richardson made. I mean, I think he's a fine politician and he did a good job to make a national presence and to keep that Hispanic nature to his campaign. He didn't run away from it, and I think that's great.
But a lot of people saw him in the shadow of the Clinton administration, or the old establishment.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And it's going to take somebody who can stand on their own 2 feet, and who knows if it's a Villaraigosa or somebody coming out of a governorship or a mayorship can be asserting a national presence. U.S. senators is another breeding ground for presidential candidates, and what I'd like to see is us make inroads to those intermediate steps in the political pantheon, and then be able to grow from that into the presidency. I think it's going to take a few more elections before you're going to see there being any great danger of a Hispanic president. But I regret that. I wish we'd get the next one.
Southwest Detroit, there's been a lot of developments in Southwest Detroit recently. Where do you see this enclave in the city of Detroit moving to?
Well, we're trying to open a channel of communication with Mayor Bing, because, I mean, we really had a friend in Mayor Cockrell. And so we're trying to make sure that we get as much out of the Bing administration as we were hopeful for the Cockrell administration. Well,
thank you very much, Lawrence Garcia. We're going to take a break, and we'll come right back with the round table. All Politics is Local, the countdown to November. You're watching Center Stage on WADL TV 38.